On this vote, the yeas are 250, the nays are 180. Two-thirds not being in the affirmative, the rules are not suspended, and the bill is not passed.
What you just heard was House Speaker Mike Johnson's standalone bill to provide an additional $17 billion in military aid to Israel. Now, the military aid was supposed to be part of a broader bill that was negotiated in the Senate. It was part of the border security bill that not only provided provisions that would reform our immigration policies, but it also would provide military aid to both Israel and Ukraine. Now, since Trump told Republicans not to vote in favor of that bill because he didn't want to give Biden a win on border security in the lead up to the general election, they voted it down. Well, they didn't even vote it down. Republicans have blocked it. And since Mike Johnson wanted to ensure that America would be sending military aid to Israel anyway, he introduced a standalone bill on the House floor, which did not pass. Incredible. So the vote, as you heard earlier, was 250 to 180. The bill needed a 2/3 majority to pass in the House after an expedited process for its consideration, which is a steep hurdle, right? 2/3 majority to pass a bill is incredibly difficult in a polarized Congress. Now, 166 Democrats and 14 Republicans opposed the measure. So the full list of Republicans who voted against the bill has not been announced yet, but according to Business Insider, Representatives Thomas Massie, Chip Roy, Warren Davidson, and Marjorie Taylor Greene were among the Republicans who also voted against the bill. Now, this just broke, so the story is still developing, but this is pretty shocking. The Israel aid bill comes as Republican hardliners tried to thwart the $118 billion bipartisan Senate border bill. That measure includes provisions seeking to address record high crossings at the southern border and contains foreign aid to Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan. Republicans have said that they would support foreign aid to those countries if it is tied with new policies restricting US immigration. The standalone Israel bill that was just voted down in the House includes $17.6 billion in military aid to the country, as well as important funding for US forces in the region. Johnson's office has said. Now, the measure, known as the Israel Security Supplemental Appropriations Act and introduced by Representative Ken Calvert from California, does not contain spending offsets that Johnson and Democrats objected to in previous legislation. So we've got some statements from Thomas Massie in just a moment, but Cenk, we were wrong, and I'm so happy we were wrong. Okay, I did not think that this standalone bill to send more money to Israel would fail, but here we are, it failed.
Yeah, we're not wrong. It's only delayed. There's no multiverse where United States Congress does not give Israel a blank check that it has asked for, especially to kill more Palestinians. There's no way the evil people inside Washington wouldn't send that check. So let's break down why this happened, okay? But Anna, you are definitely right that it's a little bit surprising this one fell, no question. And it's also significantly surprising that it's taking this long.
It is surprising. And by the way, Jake, I have to jump in on something you said, because I just think your characterization is a little unfair, right? I don't think that the lawmakers who are, desperate to send more military aid to Israel are doing so because they take pleasure in watching Palestinians get killed. I mean, who knows? Maybe some do, but I don't think that's the real motivating factor. As we've talked about so many times before, it's the Israel lobby and how incredibly powerful they are. They're afraid of the Israel lobby, AIPAC, voting or campaigning against them, challenging them by funding an opponent during the congressional elections. That is what really motivates them. And I think it's important to draw attention to that rather than assume that they enjoy watching Palestinians get slaughtered.
No. Look, I don't think I said that, but in case it was unclear, let me be clear. No, it's not that they watch the bombs and wait for the building to collapse on a baby and watch its head explode and go, yes, right? Are some of them that sick? Definitely. Are most of them that sick? No. They just watch that same exact scene and go, did the check clear? Good, I'm good with it. Kill him.
Yeah.
Kill more.
Yeah,
As long
I
as
agree
the
with you
check
on that.
cleared,
Yep.
right? So and it's not just the Israeli lobbies. We've talked about a million times. Defense contractors, et cetera, have a lot of stake in this as well. So look, guys, the reason it failed. Remember, 250 yes votes, 180 no votes. So what's going on? It's because it's Mike Johnson introduced it in a way that it was going to get a quick vote. That's why I needed 2/3 to pass. So they'll just bring it back and it'll pass super easily. The only reason why some of the Democrats, or most of the Democrats, voted against it was because they wanted it to be part of a broader bill, as Anna pointed out. But by the way, that broader bill has the Republican border provisions that the Democrats were theoretically against and compromised on. It's the only thing that it has that they want is Ukraine funding as well. So a lot of gamesmanship here, not based on the substance. But despite the fact that this was a kind of a political stunt, as the Democrats called it, accurately so, 4 dozen Democrats still voted yes. They're like, oh, a Republican stunt? Well, as long as it gives money to Israel, amen, baby. 27,000 dead Palestinians are not enough. Let's go send them 14 billion. Sorry, that was a Democratic request, was 14 billion. Republicans who are anti-war said no, and who are anti-deficit said no, increase it, 17.6 billion to kill more Palestinians, commit more war crimes.
Yeah. You know, I have to also give Thomas Massie some credit because he's been consistent on funding Israel, and it's not specifically because he has some sort of grudge or issue with Israel. This is really his ideology in wanting to, preserve our resources for the American people and stop funding wars abroad. But prior to this vote, he had put out on X, formerly known as Twitter, that the speaker, meaning Mike Johnson, announced that next week the House will vote on a clean bill to send Israel 14.3 billion. As we now know, the amount was actually higher than that, to the tune of 17 billion. Israel has a lower debt to GDP ratio than the United States. The spending package has no offsets, so it would increase our debt by $14.3 billion plus interest. I'm a no. Now look, oftentimes when you hear from Republican lawmakers complaining or fear-mongering about the debt or the deficit, you know that it's really a political play because they have no problem providing cover for, let's say, the $2 trillion tax cut bill that was championed by Donald Trump in 2017. But Thomas Massie has been consistent, and even though I disagree with him on most policy issues, and I'm not aligned with him ideologically, I don't care. I mean, credit where credit is due. Obviously, he has principles here and he has been consistent on this issue.
Yeah, look, I think there's an even more interesting trend going on. First of all, Thomas Massie is known as Dr. No. He votes no on almost all the bills, and he does it based on the debt most of the time. I'll give him credit on 2 things. One, he is at least principled. He votes that way against Republican bills, against Democratic bills. People might find him to be a pain in the ass, and I don't agree with a lot of his policies. But it's a rare politician in DC that has principles and sticks with it. And he's not easy to bully. So the Israeli lobby tried to bully him and call him anti-Semitic and all those things. And he laughed it off and was like, yeah, come for me. Let's see how it turns out. So I do respect that. But the more interesting trend, Anna, is Chip Roy, Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is the right wing that is starting to say, yeah, I don't know about funding more war, even if it's beloved Israel. And that is a very interesting development. If the right-wing populists and the left-wing populists unite against the establishment, it's on anything that is positive, like anti-war movement, that would be the greatest development of my lifetime. And as if there's anyone in establishment listening to this right now, their head just popped off. Because to them, that would be the most disgusting thing they have ever seen. Are you saying that these radicals on the right and the left would join and agree with the American people? That's exactly what we don't want. We want you to vote for more wars, more funding of nonsense, corporate pork, etc. Don't you dare be actual populists. So you know me, I got no love for MAGA, but credit where credit is due to the populist right-wing front there voting no.
Yeah, final thing I'll say is the America First movement is very much real. And I want to draw distinctions because, there are, of course, nationalists who I think are detrimental in their ideology. But then there are people who look at the amount of money that we spend abroad, especially when it comes to funding forever wars or engaging in provocative military actions abroad that could actually, increase tensions in regions of the world, like the Middle East right now as we speak. They look at all that and they're like, no, why? Why are we doing this? We need to take care of our people? And I respect that. And I, for the most part, agree with that. Maybe not to the same extent where they're isolationists. But at the same time, I do think that taking a look at our priorities and where our resources go is an important thing to do. And I just can't understand how anyone can justify sending $17 billion in additional military funding to Israel as they are A, carrying out the atrocities we see in the Gaza Strip day in and day out, and B, as they're providing universal health care to their people, and we have 20 million Americans who don't have any damn health coverage. Okay, we have people going into bankruptcy because they need health care, but don't have the money to pay for their own medical bills. So I don't know, interesting things are happening. I think that there's like a weird realignment happening in our political spectrum as well. I'm really curious to see where it all ends up, but never in my life did I think that I would give someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene credit for how she voted on legislation, but I do give her credit for this.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly double down on what you and Massey said. Look, I think that for me personally, it depends on context for whether I'm in favor of aid or not. There's so many different factors, and I believe in balance, right? Having said that, to the point you and Massey made, Israel has not only universal health care, they have paid family leave. They have so many of the policies we can't pass here because they say we can't afford it. So we can't afford the policies Israel already has because we sent them our money. That makes no sense at all. That's not anywhere near balanced. That is basically US politicians saying very directly, Israel is way more important than America is.
And final thing, I know I keep saying final thing. I think I'm taking your position, Cenk, as being the final thing person. But anyway, we now have the final list of all the Republicans who voted against the bill. I just want to name them. Aaron Bean of Florida, Andy Biggs of Arizona, Lauren Boebert of Colorado, Andrew Clyde of Georgia, Eli Crane of Arizona, Warren Davidson of Ohio, Matt Gaetz of Florida, Bob Good of Virginia, Paul Gosar of Arizona, Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, Thomas Massey, Corey Mills of Florida, Ralph Norman of South Carolina, and Chip Roy of Texas.
Yeah, I don't know that the Paul Gosars of the world had good intent in voting down this bill, but
I can say no good intent. Okay, yeah. I know that.
And there are some opponents of Israel that do it for all the wrong reasons. Okay,
correct. Yeah.
But having said that, this is not about Gosar or any one person. It's clearly the right wing, the populist right wing, saying no, and that's a good development.
Thanks for watching the video, guys. We also love it if you hit the join button below because that makes you a member, and members allow us to be independent, honest. We can be as progressive as we want, no corporate media influence, and that's all because of you guys. We love doing the show with our members. Hit the join button, become one of the Young Turks.